Good afternoon. I'm Dave Thompson. I'm the Education Director for the ACE Academy of Cleaning Excellence and President of the Green Clean Institute. Now, this afternoon, our speaker is going to be talking to us about teaching, explaining, and listening. I'm going to be patient and listen to him too, so come on back after this short message and we'll learn more.
Live from Orlando, Florida, and the ACE Learning Center at Gym Supply, it's Beyond Clean with Dave, a weekly broadcast for professionals in environmental health services around the world. Your host is David Thompson, Director of Education for Gym Supply, and his mantra is, I am a janitor and I save lives. And now let's listen to Beyond Clean with Dave and today's guest at the ACE Learning Center in sunny downtown Orlando.
There's 3 words on which I focus on each and every Friday afternoon. Those words, healthy, positive, and proactive. Now, before I start today's show, we have a feature that we started a few weeks ago. It's our live chat, and it's active right now. If you're on YouTube and watching us, it's on the right-hand side. Put in a thought, a comment, or a question, and I'll try to get to it before we end our show today. Now, as I said before, our speaker is here in the studio with us, and he's going to talk to us about being an expert, about teaching, explaining, and listening. I wonder which one of those 3 I am, and which one I do the best. Yeah, I'm going to learn right along with you. So, let's welcome Cliff. He's here to talk to us about it, and you're here with us. So, Cliff, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Dave.
So, tell the audience a little bit about who you are and why you're the expert.
Well, my background is in resort operations, property management, facilities, and I'm also a CIMS Assessor. I have a black belt in Lean Six Sigma. I have a green belt in Six Sigma, and I have spent a whole lifetime doing many things to become an expert in the cleaning industry.
Okay, so, I mean, the audience, I'm sure, is asking questions the same as I am. You made the statement of expert, so did I. What does it take to make an expert?
I want to talk about 2 different things that make an expert. There's a fellow named Malcolm Gladwell, and he wrote a book, okay, about what it takes to be an expert. And what he says is it takes 10,000 hours of actual work in the field. And the key to being an expert is not just the actual work where you know something, but it's understanding it. Understanding it well enough to explain it to others. How well should you understand it? Albert Einstein has a quote. When you know your subject well enough to explain it to a 5-year-old and have him understand it, then you're an expert.
Okay, so I definitely have got the 10,000 hours in the 45 years. So I got to think about this. I'd explain this to my 5-year-old and she got it. So I'm teaching adults now. Does that qualify?
That qualifies. As long as they understand it. We have a picture of a nice filet mignon there. It took an expert to cook that just the way the person liked it. That's really medium rare. So that was an expert that did that.
Yeah, now my wife's been in the restaurant business, and I guarantee you, folks, whenever we go to a restaurant, if the steak's not cooked right, I tell you. Now, if you're a vegetarian, I'm sorry, we're on the steak thing today, but if it doesn't matter what you're cooking. If it's not cooked right, that person cooking it was not an expert, is what you're saying.
Correct. In fact, they have shown everything about being an expert is about quality. Okay, we all want to be an expert at what we do, and we all want to, that is signified by the quality work that we do.
So it's the result of what our efforts are. It's not that you actually went through the effort, it's what the result is, right?
Correct.
Okay.
In fact, also, just like the steak here, it's the customer's thought, are we an expert?
Well, their input, because they're the ones that ordered it that certain way. You're the expert if you can give them back what they asked for.
Exactly.
But I think there's another part of that you mentioned in our intro here. I've got to listen to something before I can get that result.
Yes, absolutely. There's a quote, a lot of discussion about what does it take, to get somebody to listen. Well, the problem is we talk too much. Okay, if we talk 10% of the time and listen 90% of the time, we would communicate more effectively. We see that in the restaurant business like your wife, and we definitely see that in the cleaning industry. we have a tendency to tell the customer what they want and not listen to really what they want.
Okay, so you've been in the hospitality business for most of your career.
Yes.
So there's a big time listening to what the client says. And that's kind of done nowadays. We do this on a survey.
Yes.
That's part of listening.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, there's just immense amount of programs out there that keep score of our quality scores. And as a CIMS assessor, I get to see every one of them, and they're all excellent. What we kind of lack, though, is one, we don't share it with the customer, and number two, when we store it, I've never seen a scoring system where the score was less than like 95. And yet, sometimes you'll go around with the customer and they'll say, well, this is dirty, and you have a big list of complaints. Well, that doesn't equal a 95 by any stretch of the imagination.
Okay, so we have a way to listen. We have a way to report. Are we listening as well as we should, is what you're saying?
That's one of the things. One of the things that we don't do well is when we have a computer system, one, we don't use it effectively. In every one of these systems, even by hand, you can weight different scores. You can weight different things. And we're going to talk a little bit, when we talk about restrooms, only 5% of all the build outs in the United States at every building are restrooms. And yet 50% of all work orders come from the restroom.
So apparently we're not listening very well because we've got the reporting data, as you said.
Yes.
So we have the way to get the information. We're not taking our technology and putting it together. Because if 5% of what we clean is actually creating 50%, and we've said this for years.
Yes.
If it's still doing that, well, obviously our experts aren't, well, maybe are they experts really?
Well, they're certainly experts in inspecting, but are they experts in the result? And that's
in delivery.
Right. And that's why I brought up Lean Six Sigma. It does statistical analysis, okay, with given formulas to get the top complaints down to the bottom, okay? And essentially, what I do when I go out is tell people how you should weight different scores. I would weight the restrooms, let's say 15 points or 20 points out of a 100-point score.
Okay, since I'm all about education, I weight education stronger than I weight other things. So it really kind of depends on what avenue you're looking from. But I think, audience, what you're hearing us say is the customer is going to tell you, if I listen, which one I should weight the most because that's the issue that they have and it carries more weight.
Absolutely.
And then I'm going to deliver what would, as an expert, I'm going to deliver then what would address that issue that they have identified.
Yes, after you teach your people what the customer wants. And how important is teaching? Well, when we say 50% of the complaints come from the restroom, then we need to spend 50% of our time training in the restroom.
Okay, so he mentioned a couple of things. Audience, you know me, I hit the words education and teaching. We've got to do that before we start going in training. So maybe what's happening is we're not understanding in the restrooms what really the issue is and what the customer wants. So our training is lacking because we're not implementing the right result. We're not getting the right result.
Right. And that comes from listening to the customer, okay, listening to our results and actually responding to the results. I use a term when I give talks on this, transparent quality. Transparency is you look through a mirror and you see the other side. Right. It's not a one-way mirror. Too many times with quality, we look at a thing, customer looking back at us and saying, well, it don't look like that to me.
Right. So what we're saying is we have all of these stats of what we're doing, why we should do it, how we should do it, and everything. We're not using them right.
Correct. In fact, to the point, when I go out on CIMS assessments and I do consulting, what I hear most is, well, the customer doesn't want to be part of our quality program. Okay, and I hear that all the time. And yet, when I go as a CIMS assessor and as a consultant, I always make sure I talk to the customer. What they don't want is to spend 2 hours with you walking in the building.
But they do want to be part of the quality. They want to see what you're doing in the back of the room, right?
Yes, they want the scores, and they want to go when they want. And you need to make yourself available to go where they want. In the education profession, what I do is I always tell you, we are very attention deficit now.
Oh yeah.
Okay, we don't like to listen long. Customers don't like to listen long. We don't like to listen long. So what I recommend is do something called micro meetings. Okay, very short, 2 minutes at a time. We always talk about our elevator pitch. Have an elevator pitch.
Okay, so the thing is we need to be transparent in what we're doing because the customer wants to see it. So you have a picture that you showed of all of these things lined up. Does a customer really want to see that?
Absolutely. Number one thing, one of the things we don't do well is to make sure that the customer sees this. This was done, I found this just taking a walk. This is what we want to do. This is what the results of our efforts are.
So this is the back of the house, folks. This is what he's actually found that the client is doing. This is the way they keep their storeroom. They're organized, they're professional, they're experts at what they do, or they wouldn't have this because this wasn't staged. This was what their everyday routine practice was.
That's right, 100%. And what was interesting is I just happened upon it. Okay, this wasn't one of the buildings I did a CIMS assessment. I was actually consulting, and this is what I found.
So it wasn't during an assessment. They didn't know you were coming. This wasn't something, and that's what's the beautiful thing. We know that people are doing the right thing, audience. We know that you're doing the right thing. Now, why is it that we don't want to talk about it? We want to hide this like, hey, this is my secret. But the customer wants it. They just don't want a long dissertation on it.
That's exactly right. We know as cleaners, and we both have a lifetime in cleaning, we're not good braggarts.
No.
Okay, no. We keep all of our greatness under a basket a lot of the time.
But we don't want to talk about it.
And we always defend ourselves because we sit there and we never ask for feedback because we're always worried it's going to be bad.
So there's no value in what we're doing because we're not showing it to anybody. And I was speaking at a conference in Miami this week, and this is one of the things I talked about. We have to be able to articulate our value. These pictures show what we're doing. We're just not articulating the value, so therefore we're not getting the respect for the quality that we put out.
I have never been on a CIMS assignment, I've never been on a consulting assignment where both the customer and the client and all the people paying me want, what are the best practices? Tell us the best practices, Cliff. Tell us what the best people are doing. And it's amazing. It has very little to do with the size of the company,
right?
Okay, or anything other than how much they want to, how much you want to do well, and how much are you willing to teach people to do it well.
So we've got best practices, we've got quality, we've got statistics, we have all of the things we know we should be doing, but we're still not listening to the client to show them all this stuff right.
In fact, we have the pictures here. This was actually shows total green cleaning. We have all the microfiber there. Turns out the customer didn't even know that the company was green cleaning. They had no idea this was happening.
So they're green cleaning in the facility, the customer's reaping the benefits.
Yes.
But the contractor,
Yes.
I guess this is not an in-house, this was a building service contractor.
This is a building service contractor.
He's not reaping the benefits of his green cleaning because he's not letting anybody know.
He never told them that he switched all this and how organized this was. He had never taken the customer even to back to show him.
Wow. Now that's a new one on me. I tell you what, most people, if they're going to that extent to do this and show this, and they're doing green cleaning and they're doing healthy, green to me is also health. As a chronic asthmatic, this is a health issue. There's a lot of benefits to this that everybody should be realizing, and nobody was getting it.
Nobody was.
Wow. Well, I got to tell you, that was something I didn't expect. So this is quality because, hey, back to that medium rare steak.
Right.
This wasn't well done, from the side point of cooking, but this was well done from the side of they were doing their job. But
right. And I asked the question, well, why haven't you told him? Okay, and always the answer is, well, I just never get a good chance to communicate with them. We talked about micro meetings and things like that. So they say, well, how do you sit down with a customer? Because, they always talk to me. And I said, notice what I do. I said, I always ask a viewpoint question. I always ask a why. okay? You want to make sure that you elicit a response and give them time. Remember, this is the first time they've heard the question. Give them time to gather their thoughts and to respond to you.
You know, I think this is what's interesting. I was at a conference, as I said before, and we were talking about this whole issue of value, respect, letting people know what we're doing. And, you know, if you are green cleaning, if you are providing healthy services, this has a benefit to a lot of different people, as we just said. You know, now, where do I mean, we've done all of this. You know, as I ask every speaker, where do we want to go from here? I mean, we've said what we should do. We said what some people are doing. Where do we go?
Well, believe it or not, you know, it's funny. I've listened to all your shows. We want to go beyond clean. Okay? Okay. We want to go beyond that. We want to be a partner with the people that we work with. We always talk about we want our employees to be partners with us.
Right.
Okay? The companies that do the best are the ones that retain their customers the longest build a partnership. We have our photo up here of LeBron James. Now he was in Miami Heat. He's been to 6 finals in a row. He is most famous for one thing, sharing the basketball. His teammates love him because he is a good teammate. He asks them, where do you want the ball? Where do you want me to pass it to you so that you can do well? Where on the floor? And then they arrange that. That's what makes them great.
I never really thought about this. I might be, maybe I'm being presumptuous here, but I don't want to put myself in his league, but I'm the one in front of the camera, but there's a team of people, the folks that you can't see. There's a team of people that make this all happen. You know, I was trying to do this by myself before I came down here in Florida. I didn't have a team. Now I have a team. And we all have to work together to get you and I, and you're part of the team now. You know, you're in front of the camera with me. So, I mean, it is all about a team, and this is that communication, listening. We listened to what you wanted to say today. You've got your chance to say it. We're going to give you, the audience, the chance to see this stuff and to listen, and so that we can teach you what we know, so that all of us can become experts together.
Right. Proactivity is so important. Don't wait for the complaints. Okay? When we want to talk about beyond clean, we want to talk about healthy. Let the customers know. Let your team know. Okay? We remember 15 years ago, PPE wasn't even required. Okay, I have no fingerprint because PPE wasn't required. We need to do a much better job explaining, you know, as Dave always brings out, about that we actually do save many lives. My wife is an asthmatic, okay, and has all kind of problems with odors and sensitivities, okay, and that's made me more aware of that, and that's from cleaning.
So we didn't have any questions on our live chat today, so if you had some as we went along and you just didn't want to put it up there on the chat, please do so. You can send it to me. I'll give you that information in a minute. So, you know, Cliff, I guess the thing is do you have any parting last words for the audience before we let you go?
Yes. Build partnerships with your customers. Build partnerships with each other. In fact, one more thing that I really didn't talk about enough is mentor each other. Talk to we don't want to necessarily talk to our competitors, but view them as partners. Go see what they're doing, okay? We want to share as much as we can.
Cliff, thanks for being on my show today.
Thank you, Dave. I enjoyed it.
Okay, folks, so let me close the show out here. You know, we have every week, we have people that are asking us about our classes. You can go to the GYM website. That is gymsupply.net. Find that education button. Click on the live classes. We have them in Orlando and our other 3 locations. I have a Facebook channel. I know I've got a bald head, something you got to get over, folks, but hey, like and share my Facebook page. I would really appreciate that. If you've still got questions, you want more information, beyondcleanwithdave.com. We've got all kinds of pictures. We have our past speakers there, information about them, even things that we're doing here at the Academy. Check that out. So I guess until next Friday afternoon, 1 p.m. Eastern time, right here, live from Orlando, I'm Dave Thompson. Keep changing your future. Keep those changes healthy, positive, and proactive. And remember my mantra, I am a janitor and I save lives. Now hang on for just a moment. I'm going to be right back in just a few minutes to tell you what's on our calendar for this coming Friday, right after these credits.
You have been listening to Beyond Clean with Dave and his guest. Sharing what you learn with others is what turns knowledge into professional development. Live classes are hosted each week at one or more of our 4 locations in Central Florida. Remember, janitors save lives. Be sure to put us on your schedule to watch next week as we present another broadcast of Beyond Clean with Dave.
Okay, so this next Friday, I'm going to be talking with Bob Merle, who's going to be joining us here to talk about natural stone floors and why that you don't want to put coatings on top of them. You know what I learned? I didn't even know that stone floors needed to breathe. Gee, who would have known that? He's an expert in stone floor care. He's going to be talking with us next Friday, right here, 1 p.m. Eastern, on that smart device that you have right in your hand. Come back and join me then. Thanks and have a good weekend.